it all started when my sister, Emily, asked me to help her with some shopping for a big family gathering. She was having a bit of a rough time, juggling her kids, work, and managing the household, so I agreed to help. Little did I know, this would become one of the most shocking moments of my life. We had just finished buying the groceries, and we were heading back to her place when she got a call. She answered it with a brief smile, but that smile quickly faded into silence. I noticed how tense she became, her hand gripping the phone tightly, as if bracing herself for something. She hung up, her face pale. "Everything okay?" I asked, feeling uneasy. "Yeah, just a little stress at work," she said, forcing a smile. But there was something in her eyes that told me she wasn't being entirely honest. I didn't push it, though. After all, we all have our days. When we arrived at her home, I entered the kitchen to put the bags down, and that's when it happened. The door opened, and there stood Tom, my brother-in-law. He was back early from a supposed business trip. He had been away for a few days, and I hadn't expected him home so soon. But what really caught my attention was how he was holding himself. There was a subtle shift in his demeanor, an odd mix of nervousness and relief. He seemed almost too eager to see me, as if trying to avoid Emily's gaze. Before Emily had a chance to react, he did something that startled me. He kissed my cheek, his lips lingering just a moment longer than what felt normal for a brother-in-law. I pulled away, confused, but Emily didn't seem to notice. She smiled at him and wrapped him in a tight hug, but her eyes were distant, clouded. I could tell something wasn't right. The tension in the room was palpable, and I felt like I was intruding on something much bigger than a simple family reunion. But then, as he pulled away from the hug, I saw the small, barely noticeable piece of paper he was trying to hide in his hand. He quickly shoved it into his pocket, but I saw enough to recognize what it was: a hotel receipt. A wave of nausea hit me. It was a hotel receipt from a place that wasn't anywhere near where he'd been on his supposed business trip. I couldn't keep it inside anymore. I turned to Emily, my voice shaky but resolute. "Emily, can I talk to you for a second?" She followed me into the living room, her expression confused but concerned. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Something's not right with Tom," I said, unable to keep the tremor out of my voice. "He's been hiding something." I hesitated, but I knew what I had to do. I pulled out my phone, showing her the hotel receipt. Her face drained of color. "You don't think," she began, her voice trembling. I nodded, and the tears welled up in her eyes. "Emily, I think he's been lying to you. I think he's been seeing someone else." Her world shattered right in front of me. But the hardest part wasn't the immediate shock or the accusations that followed it, was how she couldn't quite believe it, how she desperately wanted to ignore the reality in front of her because the emotional attachment she had to Tom was so strong. There was a sense of betrayal, of loss, but also a painful feeling of helplessness, because she had always trusted him completely. The silence between us was deafening. I could feel her pain and confusion as she tried to hold it together for the sake of their children. It wasn't just the physical act of infidelity that stung. It was the emotional manipulation that had been woven over the years, the lies, the promises, the deep bond they had built together that was now crumbling before her eyes. The next few days were a blur. Emily confronted Tom, and he admitted to everything, although his explanations were half-hearted and lacked genuine remorse. The truth was more complicated than either of us had realized. There had been another woman in the picture for months. He'd promised to end it, but the emotional attachment he'd developed made it impossible for him to cut ties completely. Emily's heartbreak was raw, and I could feel every bit of it as she struggled to figure out what to do next. It wasn't just about the betrayal, it was about all the years they had shared, the family they had built, and the fact that Emily had been emotionally invested in a lie for so long. The story didn't end with a clear resolution. Emily is still processing it, torn between the love she once had for Tom and the truth that's too painful to ignore. As for Tom, he's trying to reconcile with Emily, but the emotional damage is already done. Whether their marriage can survive or not is still uncertain. Infidelity is often seen as a betrayal of trust, but its true emotional impact goes far beyond that initial sense of broken loyalty. At its core, infidelity strikes at the very heart of emotional attachments within relationships. It isn't just about physical acts or secret affairs. It's about how those actions reveal deeper, more complex emotional dynamics. These dynamics often include feelings of love, security, fear, anger, and vulnerability that have been hidden for years beneath the surface of a relationship. When infidelity occurs, it exposes a jagged fracture in the emotional bond that partners once believed was unbreakable. The pain isn't just about the act of betrayal itself, but the emotional turmoil that follows as individuals grapple with the truth. The emotional devastation of infidelity reveals the complexity of human relationships and how deeply intertwined emotional bonds can become with expectations, trust, and self-worth. In many relationships, partners develop intricate emotional ties over time. These ties can become so deeply ingrained that they feel like the foundation upon which the entire relationship is built. Partners invest not only their time and effort, but also their emotional energy into maintaining the relationship. These emotional investments are often unspoken and implicit, but are still essential for the bond to thrive. Infidelity undermines that foundation by shattering the trust that has been so carefully nurtured. When one partner betrays the other, it can lead to a profound sense of loss, not just because of the broken promise, but because of the loss of the emotional security that once existed between them. In many cases, individuals who are cheated on often feel as if their entire world has been upended, as though everything they thought they knew about the person they loved has been called into question. The emotional attachment, once a source of strength, now becomes a source of deep emotional pain, as it feels as though everything that was once true is now a lie. Furthermore, the emotional impact of infidelity can sometimes be even more devastating because of the hidden emotions that often come to light. When a person cheats, it isn't always about a lack of physical attraction or love for the partner. It may stem from a deeper emotional need that has been neglected within the relationship. This emotional need may be rooted in feelings of inadequacy, loneliness, or even unmet desires for emotional intimacy that the person may have felt they were not receiving. For the partner who has been betrayed, discovering that there was an emotional component to the affair can feel like an even deeper violation. It's one thing for someone to betray you physically, but it can be far more painful to know that their emotional attachment to someone else was what ultimately led to their disloyalty. The feeling that their emotional connection was not enough to prevent their partner from seeking intimacy elsewhere is often a blow that is difficult to recover from. This emotional complexity of infidelity is particularly challenging because it forces individuals to face the reality of their own vulnerabilities. In the wake of betrayal, people often feel a wide range of emotions, including shame, guilt, anger, and heartbreak. These emotions can manifest in many ways, from feelings of worthlessness and insecurity to intense self-doubt about one's value as a partner. The challenge then becomes how to navigate these emotions while simultaneously dealing with the painful truth that their partner was emotionally involved with someone else. It's not just about dealing with the breach of trust, but also about confronting the painful realization that the emotional needs of one partner were being met outside the relationship. This can lead to a sense of betrayal on a much deeper level, as the person left behind feels as though they were not enough to fulfill the emotional expectations of their partner. On the other hand, the person who has cheated may also be dealing with their own complex emotional turmoil. They often find themselves caught in a web of guilt, shame, and confusion. In many cases, the affair is not the result of a lack of love or commitment, but rather a failure to communicate emotional needs or a response to personal struggles that have been ignored. These hidden emotional struggles may be difficult for both partners to recognize until the affair forces them to confront the truth. The person who cheated may find themselves emotionally torn between the love for their partner and the emotional connection they've formed with someone else. This emotional conflict can be overwhelming as they struggle to come to terms with their actions, while also grappling with the pain they have caused. The emotional impact of infidelity is not limited to the individuals directly involved. It ripples outward, affecting families, friends, and even children. The emotional toll of infidelity can cause long-lasting damage to everyone involved, especially when the betrayal leads to broken families and fractured relationships. Family members may find themselves caught in the crossfire, having to choose sides or manage the fallout of someone else's emotional decisions. This ripple effect often compounds the emotional complexity of infidelity, as it's not just about the relationship between the two individuals involved, but also about how their actions affect the larger emotional ecosystem that surrounds them. Ultimately, infidelity serves as a stark reminder of the delicate balance between emotional intimacy and emotional betrayal. It reveals the complexities of human connection and how easily the trust that holds relationships together can be shattered. The pain of infidelity is not just about the initial betrayal, but about the emotional turmoil that follows as individuals are forced to confront their vulnerabilities, unmet needs, and the intricate emotional landscape of their relationships.